Hey there, podcast listeners. This is JJ, your host with the most from JJ Meets World. Our guest this week is Dayna Del Val, the president and CEO of the Arts Partnership here in Fargo. Dayna talks about the economic value of the arts, things that she's done in this community, and why Fargo Moorhead happens to be her home. Also, Tucker and I are going to talk about socks.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
Some people share a special bond with another human being where they can look, maybe they're riding in silence in a car and they drive by a billboard and they both silently look at the billboard, and then they look at each other and they know what each other is thinking and they laugh. There are also people who maybe you feel that weird kinship to, and it's storming outside and you call them and like, I was just about to call you. One of the things that Tucker Lucas, my producer who's sitting across from me, told me once that was so profound was we were driving to Indiana and we weren't listening to music. We were just the sounds of the road. It had been quiet for about 15 minutes and I broke the silence and I said, wow, it's been quiet for a long time. He said, it's because we're comfortable with each other. We can have silence. We don't need to constantly be filling the space with noise or somebody saying, sure is nice out, isn't it today? And I think about that a lot. And I think about the people that I could be silent with without having to fill it in moments. And I feel bad when I'm with a family member that I just don't really know that much about, or that I know decently enough where I don't have to just say, hey, you look good, everything's going great, and tell me about blank. I can't stand that.
Small talk is tough on my soul. It actually is. I mean, there are times when, no problem, I can do it. You have to be on or whatever. You're talking to someone that you need to have some conversation going with, but I actually find it draining sometimes to have to engage in meaningless talk to fill time and space. I almost would rather we just be quiet, even if we're strangers or whatever, versus just saying whatever inane thing comes to the top of our head.
So let's have some small talk.
Okay.
Let's see how long we can have a small talk conversation without actually talking about anything in substance. Okay. How's your dog?
Oh, great.
Yeah, I saw you walking him the other day.
Yeah. It's really great when you get the chance to walk your dog.
I noticed that you had an umbrella with. It good? I didn't see rain in the forecast.
Well, but yeah, I mean, the weather we've been having has been pretty crazy though lately, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to be prepared for that weather.
They say that there could be a small shower really like any time.
Yeah.
That we could, should suddenly happen.
Yeah. How's your job? How's that going?
It's good. It's good. It's a slow time. Slow time of the year, but I go every day.
Working hard.
Yeah, and you, how's your mom?
She's good.
Yeah,
she's working.
I haven't seen her in forever.
Yeah, just plugging away.
She's still making pies.
Yep, making pies. Pies are great. I mean, who doesn't love a pie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pumpkin pie or apple pie.
Strawberry rhubarb.
Yeah. Chocolate mousse.
There's never, when I order a piece of pie at a restaurant, it never looks like it does.
I just realized our podcast is basically small talk.
That was, it felt awkward. It felt uncomfortable. I hated every minute of it.
Yeah. Let's not do that again.
No. Now let's have a different conversation and show how different it is to be engaging when people just become honest and ask the real questions that they want, right? So when was the last time you washed that shirt you're wearing? It looks filthy.
Technically yesterday. Yeah, but it's a very.
How did you dry it? It's covered in wrinkles.
So this is my Theater B shirt. This is one of the most comfortable shirts that I own. It's a maroon shirt, which is weird for me because I'm usually wearing dark colors.
Looks good with your skin tone.
Because fat guys think that if we wear dark clothes, it kind of hides the curves.
Vertical
right?
stripes too.
Vertical stripes. But this is a very, very comfy shirt, and I'm going to a Theater B meeting later today, and I thought, you know what? Time to put it on. But but it looks dirty because it's had some wear and tear. It's had some love. This shirt has helped me paint sets and move set pieces and do other things.
Now you're wearing a Theater B shirt to a Theater B meeting.
Yeah.
Do you think
it's not like wearing a band's t-shirt to their concert?
I was just going to ask, do you wear the thing that you are doing or seeing when you go to it?
It just felt appropriate today.
I imagine that for some of your videography gigs, you have to wear a t-shirt that says you're part of a crew.
Yep.
So
I actually
do you have a Hornbacher shirt when you go to the grocery store?
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I do not have that. I would say, though, that wearing this particular shirt has started conversations for me before with strangers out. Just someone sees me wearing a Theater B t-shirt and they go, "Are you a Theater B? I actually saw, Sylvia a couple of years ago when you did that." So it's a shirt that, and it's also a shirt that very few people have, right? This is not being sold at Walmart. You have to go to Theater B and buy it. And if you're an ensemble member of Theater B, you get one. So it's a special shirt.
So I'd have to buy one, but you get one for free.
Yeah, because I'm an ensemble member. Mm-hmm. You know what, though? What I just realized, you remember like in high school and middle school when you do a play or something and there'd be a shirt for that play and then you get everyone to sign the shirt? Mm-hmm. I still have all my shirts. But most of the signatures are gone.
My shirts are in a quilt, like a t-shirt quilt now.
I think we talked about that before, didn't we?
I think we did. So they don't fit anymore?
No.
Haven't fit for a while?
No.
But you hang on to them, huh?
Yeah. Because I like trying to decipher the remaining signatures on the back. They've been worn and faded with time. But I'm thinking maybe I'll have Theater B sign this shirt.
I was in a high school production of Romeo and Juliet last year. I was asked to be a guest artist to come and portray the role of the prince, who they cut my lines down significantly. But here I was with all these high school students. Well, the new thing that they do at Fargo South, at least, is they have a copy of the poster for every kid. And you sign every poster, like, "To Bethany, you were a great apothecary." And so on and so forth.
Great spear holder number 2.
So they're like, "Well, JJ, you got to sign all these." And I go, "What? There's like 100 posters. Who do you think I am, David Lee Roth in the 80s? I can't sign all of these." And I wish I had like a signature stamp and just go ka-tunk, 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 ka-tunk. Do you the t-shirt that I get the most comments on? How you like this? This is actually a really good segue into our guest.
Okay.
I have a support local art t-shirt that the Arts Partnership put together. And I obviously, like in Fargo, a lot of people know what that shirt is and they've seen it. And you'll go to gatherings where artists and art-related people are. Mm-hmm. And that is an area where people just like go crazy with it, right?
Yeah.
But then I'll wear it when I'm in Minneapolis or when I'm in Chicago. And boy, oh boy, you'll get stopped 3 or 4 times on the street and people will be like, "Well, hey, what was this shirt? This shirt is awesome. What's the deal?" I say, "I'm from Fargo, North Dakota. And we have an arts organization there. And they want people to support local art." And they're like, "That is cool. And I love the design." I said, "Yep, come to Fargo. Check out our art." And so,
I guess I understand why t-shirts are sort of the primary piece of clothing for messaging. Maybe hats are right after that. But I wouldn't mind some support local art pants.
So like
right across the bum.
Right. But I'm trying to think how you break that up. Does it say support on the waistband part and then local art on each cheek?
I think you could make a block where it's just one word on top of the other.
Oh.
Or, on the front side, it could have the initials, and on the back side, it spells it out. So you see someone with the initials SLA on their junk, and then you're like, "Well, what's that all about?" And you turn around, "Oh, support local art."
I think socks. people don't understand how important advertising is on socks.
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly looking at people's socks.
Why?
Because I find them to be very interesting. When someone's got nice socks, I think, why don't I have nicer socks?
Those must be the one part of a person's clothing that might tell you the most about them.
Without a doubt.
Especially because they, for the most part, it's going to be concealed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can sort of, and it's a great accessory to add some color to what you're wearing. So you see even sportscasters who are on shows where you see them in the full body, not just behind a desk. Oftentimes they're in like a suit, but then they've got like bright pink socks on or something. It's sort of an accent.
Even the most uptight person could have a socks that have flames on them.
Yeah, yesterday,
but you'd never have a tie that has flames on them.
Yesterday I was wearing Captain America socks.
See?
I've even had people from the TSA call me out like, "Hey, Captain America, your turn. Come on through.
Come on, get wanted.
What's in your backpack?" I'm Captain America, guys.
Yeah. What would Captain America have? Apparently a lot of Visine. Sorry, we got to confiscate these. Remember the 3-2-1 rule. So years ago, I got rid of all of my socks.
Oh, yes.
And I went out to a big box store.
JJ knows how to do it, guys.
Yep. And I bought all the same sock. And I don't think that there's a better feeling a human being can have than wearing a brand new pair of socks.
Like fresh out the wrapper.
Fresh off the rack. It gives you an extra bounce in your step. You're a little bit happier. So I bought enough socks so I had 4 months to wear a new pair of socks every day. And it was maybe the happiest I've been in my adult life. And I was easier to be around. I was doing a lot of like snapping and pointing at people, being like, "Hey guy, how are you doing today? Looking good, Cheryl. All right, keep it together."
I used to travel for work all the time, and oftentimes what I would do is instead of packing old socks, I would buy a pair, like a pack of new socks, just so that I could start every day with that feeling, because the road was pretty stressful and tough, and long work days. But if you could start the day in the way you're talking, that's the way to do it.
So let me tell you about, other than having 4 months of being able to walk on air, I also I've got all this time left over now because I no longer have to match socks. I run the socks through the washing machine and they come out and all of them are socks. They're all the same sock. And so I've got all the same ankle socks and I've got all the same, what's the one that's not the tube sock? Not an ankle. What's the sock in the middle?
That's
like a sport sock.
Yeah, I guess sure. Athletic
the one
sock,
that goes up to maybe like a third way up your shin.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And then I've got black socks that are the same, where they're all the same black socks. Now, recently I've started purchasing socks that are outside the match because I want ones that have Argyle prints on them, or some of them that looks like they're from Bob's Burgers.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And those socks are unique enough where it's easy to match. It's not like trying to match two gold toe socks together. But maybe socks are the key to unlocking a person's personality. Maybe if you did some research into it, you could. Has anyone ever done that? Like written a book on the psychology of socks, sockology?
I think a lot of it too, it depends on the area of the country you're in, because our friends, the Koenigs, who are from one of the Carolinas, I think North Carolina, have remarked to me a few times how it took a while for them to get used to the idea of taking off your shoes when you go to someone's house and walking around in socks, because that's just not something that they do down there. But we do it up here all the time. Like if you're in a house, more than likely you're walking around in socks and not shoes. So it's kind of maybe a colloquial thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I really like white socks that have gray bottoms to them. Those are my favorite kinds.
Now, do you think the bottoms mean anything?
I think it's supposed to hide dirt.
Oh,
I think
that
that's
makes
what
sense.
it's for. Because you're wearing white socks and then those are going to get dirty right away.
When I was a teenager, because teenage boys get sweaty feet, sweaty socks.
Not just teenage boys.
All boys?
All boys.
All boys. And some girls.
I bet girls have sweaty feet.
My mother used to just fill up a big stainless steel sink that we had in our laundry room and fill it with socks and then pour water over that and then just pour bleach in there and let them soak for a while. She said, this is the only way that I can really get these socks back to normal for you. And I thought, well, I wonder how she thought of that. She said, well, my mom did it. I said, oh, so this is a secret that's been passed down from generation to generation.
To be fair, that generation's answer to everything is bleach.
Yeah, it's very true.
Medicine, cooking.
Right now, Jill's answer to everything is vinegar. She puts vinegar in the washing machine, and she puts vinegar on stains on the carpet, and she takes a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar every night to help her sleep, and vinegar this, and vinegar that. And I think that's too much vinegar. Our house smells like we're inside a pickle factory. We smell like that bird that hawks the pickles for, what is it, Clausen?
He's a stork or a crane.
Yeah, why? Why did they pick that bird to hawk pickles?
I mean,
and he's got kind of a voice like this.
yeah, because when you think of a stork, you think
Classic,
of babies.
that's what it is. Classic pickles.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he got fired from the baby delivering gig and it's like, well, pickles are the next best thing.
Hey, also, how did that start?
That's a good question.
Storks delivering babies.
I bet it like any urban legend or something, it started with
Like a baby who
like
got
an
picked
actual
up by a
thing.
stork?
A stork actually stole a baby, and someone didn't see the pickup, just saw the travel afterwards. Like, oh, that's where they come from. Okay, interesting. I never knew that about babies before.
That's your thought. A screaming baby is being carried away by a wild animal.
Had placed a baby in swaddling clothes right outside with a perfect knot at the top so that a stork beak could go through it and lift it up.
I always think that it was some advertiser who went on a bender and forgot that he had a big presentation the next day. He showed up and he's like, "Oh no, the executive is here and I need to really impress her. What am I gonna do? Oh God! Well, I got this stork from a thing and it's got a baby. Damn it!
Because you need to pick an animal.
God damn it, Craig!
But you need to pick a bird that first you wouldn't think would just turn on the baby. So no no raptors, no eagles,
No birds of
no
prey,
hawks,
no.
nothing like that. Although storks, I think, eat frogs and stuff. But you can't be like, I think of paternal and maternal birds being penguins because of how they care for the young and trade off responsibilities, but they can't fly. So there's no way a penguin is getting your baby to you.
Right, because they're not delivering it through a toilet.
Then it needs to be a bird large enough to carry a baby. So robins and sparrows, those are out. You can't use any, no woodpeckers, nothing. So I don't know, besides maybe a pelican just putting the baby in its mouth, but then that's probably dangerous for the baby too.
Looks like you're eating the baby.
Can't breathe.
And we all know pelicans deliver mail.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got to be the stork. I can't. Peacocks fly, but in short bursts and not very far.
And I always find peacocks to be full of themselves.
Yeah.
They're like, look at my plumage.
Look at me. I'm like a turkey, but way prettier.
Oh, and turkeys, you're not going to have a turkey do it
No,
because
they're
you don't want to
busy.
associate eating it
And you don't want a pilgrim to shoot it out of the sky for Thanksgiving dinner.
with his blunderbuss gun. Have you ever seen one of those guns in real life? Do those exist outside of cartoons? Those
Like the open, like, so sort of looks
like
like
a
a
cone at the end?
Vuvuzuela at the
Yeah.
end of it. I mean, I would assume maybe. I'm not a gun guy, so I don't really know. I would assume that at some point, maybe, yeah. Like if that was supposed to help shotgun burst go out or something, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never actually seen one in a museum.
I've also never seen someone who's about to be shot with a shotgun put their fingers in the shotgun at the end and plug it up and then blow it up at the other end to hurt the hunter. I haven't seen that
Somebody
yet.
told me that there's some truth to that. Anything that obstructs the bullet from before it actually exits the barrel can cause a blowback.
Okay.
And so, I mean, obviously your hand would become mangled. Like it's not going to be like in the cartoon where it just immediately like giant smoke and then the person behind it is all like, blah, 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 blah. So your hand would get completely mangled, but it would impede part of the bullet leaving. Also, it depends because a shotgun, you're talking about a bunch of little shots.
Yeah.
Like little pellets.
There are
out.
many ways that Chuck Jones cartoons have led us astray.
And most of my knowledge about guns, hunting in general,
Have you ever
sexy
tried to
cross-dressers.
Have you ever tried to leave a building as quickly as you can, but you're unable to make a shape of you outline as you're leaving the building?
Oh, like
as
if I
you
went through the
bust
wall?
through the wall?
See, no, but I always assume that when I run somewhere, there's a perfect smoke version of me or a dust
Have you ever,
devil left
I've never
behind.
seen like a fight break out where the fight just became a smoke cloud and you're just seeing arms and legs going out of it. I've never seen that happen before.
Oh, wouldn't that be worthwhile,
that'd
though?
be pretty awesome.
Tucker and I years ago went and saw one of the most underrated movies, I think, of the last couple of years. We saw Looney Tunes Back in Action that starred Brendan Fraser and Jenna Elfman and Steve Martin.
Yep.
Steve Martin in maybe one of his best roles for like families to see. He was the head of the Acme Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what the line we were quoting when we left that?
I remember the Walmart one because they talk about how it was so nice for Walmart to sponsor them, and they're going to a Walmart in the desert. Like
Yeah.
there's a Walmart in the middle of nowhere. That's the only thing I can think of. At the
Walmart's
moment.
a great company. No, so Steve Martin's character has this slicked back hair with a part on the side, and he tucks kind of like this, and he's a smarmy guy. But there's one female on the Acme board, and her name is like Sheila, and he goes, "Hello, Sheila. Would you like to do some kissing?"
That's what it was. That's right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Would you like to do some kissing?
Have you ever seen the photos of Steve Martin at like the red carpet premiere for the Pink Panther?
Is
Oh.
he just miserable?
He's dying inside. He looks so sad.
This is the second time this week I've spoken to someone about the Steve Martin Pink Panther, by the way.
What caused the first one?
We were talking, I was recommending the movie Shop Girl
Okay.
to somebody, which is based on a novella that he wrote. It was all right. The novella is great, but the movie is just all right. And this person said, "Oh, yeah. And I really liked his Pink Panther." And I said, whoa. What? Which is even more surprising that he made Pink Panther 2.
Who in their right mind would want to step into the shoes of Peter Sellers?
Right.
Who in their right? But also the Pink Panther series, they were still somewhat serious. You know, there was this like serious crime caper going on.
Yeah.
But then you had Clouseau, who was just sort of a bumbling idiot from time to time.
But he took himself seriously. He
Yeah.
wasn't a buffoon.
Yeah, he wasn't a clown.
Right.
Right. He wasn't like doing all these weird things. He was actually pretty reserved. And I always think it's the very first visual gag in the very first Pink Panther movie, I think, is when he's walking around. He's like heard what the case is going to be. And he's got a big globe in the corner. And he goes and he spins the globe as he's thinking. And then he turns to talk to the person and he puts his hand on the globe and
it
falls down.
Yeah.
Fucking killed me the first time I saw that.
I also am a big fan of, at one point he's in disguise as a telephone repairman, and they're like, "Do you need anything?" He says, No. All I need is the telephone cord and my little bag of tools." And just by adding the word "little" there, my little bag of tools, and I thought, this is why this guy is a genius. They were small additions to things like that.
Does your dog bite?
Yeah.
I thought you said your dog didn't bite. That is not my dog.
That's my dog.
Or the massage, too.
Oh,
Like to get a massage? Oh, really? Would you like to get a massage? Yes, then I'd like to get it from you.
I also love when he's at the nudist colony. He's got the guitar. He was so good. And, he hated those roles.
Really?
Yeah, he was not. He thought he was just being a buffoon, and he hated having to do the same thing
Did
over
he get
and over and over
contracted
again.
into multiple ones or something? Or
I think it was sort of like, you need to do this to continue with your fame, and if you want to do this project, you can do this. There's a great movie with Jeffrey Rush where he plays Peter Sellers. It's called The Life and Death of Peter Sellers. It's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. In fact, Stanley Tucci plays... oh God, why can't I remember his name? Who directed Doctor Strangelove?
Stanley Kubrick?
Stanley Kubrick. Good. It's just good stuff.
Of course, Dr. Strangelove being not just one of the greatest films of all time, but the greatest Peter Sellers performances of all time, as he plays three amazing characters in that movie. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
And just when he's talking on the phone too, and
Dimitri.
yeah.
Hello, Dimitri. And that's, he's the
There's some small talk right there. He starts it off with small talk.
Yeah, exactly. And the part of the genius of Peter Sellers too is that if you were watching his performance on mute, you wouldn't realize he was being funny.
No, not at all.
You wouldn't. He's so good at it that when you then add the sound and you go, what is going on here? Oh my God, this is amazing. He was singular. There wasn't anyone like him.
If you're listening to this podcast and you've never seen Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Love the Bomb,
or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb,
you should definitely watch it after you finish listening to this and all the other available episodes of JJ Meets World.
Required viewing for any human on this planet.
And it's off-putting to some people because it's in black and white, but that gives it a look that sets it apart from other movies.
Yeah.
And that's important. I am always amazed when there's a modern day director who says, I'm going to take the artistic choice of making this movie in black and white.
Makes you focus on details in a way that you didn't before.
It really does. When The Artist came out a few years ago, which was the silent film that was made in 2013, 2014.
Yeah, didn't it win Best Picture?
It won Best Picture. And everyone thought, ugh, no one wants to see a silent movie nowadays. But that was kind of the genius of it because the premise is he's a silent film star who doesn't want to move into this world of
Is the whole
audio.
movie silent?
Yeah.
I guess I'm misremembering it. I thought it wasn't, but yeah, I guess I'm just wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's silent with a score. It's got a score behind it. It's
Gotcha.
That's part of it. That's a mislabeled term.
Gotcha.
Silent movies aren't really silent. There's an audio, track behind
Gotcha.
it.
I think I'm a comic book nerd, and comic books today kind of bum me out because everything's so digitally colored and inked that the original illustrations get kind of lost underneath it. I think the most beautiful comics that I see are the ones that have no color, that are just black and white, because then the inking comes through and the illustration comes through a lot better. But now you've got Photoshop, which can do 256 million plus colors, and you can add gradients really easy and lens flares and all this other stuff that sort of layers on top of it and sort of makes like a really intricate image. And they can be beautiful in their own way, but I really definitely love the chance when I get to actually see the pencils come through. And I think that's kind of the same with movies, is that the addition of color, when not used as part of the filmmaker's toolkit to tell the story, when it's just part of the visual, like it doesn't, I don't think necessarily add anything cinematically. Like there's an awesome, people have been wanting a black and white version of Mad Max, and if you watch it in black and white, it works really well. I think there was even a version that someone made, and maybe this has been made official now, I don't know, but a version of Mad Max with no color and no dialogue. It was black and white with only the score underneath it.
Wow.
And I've seen sections of it like that, and it's amazing.
I would definitely dig that. Did you have you ever seen those images of, there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that they were shopping around that was going to be gritty and kind of violent, and it was going to be in black and white with the exception of the Turtles bandanas.
The red bandanas.
They were all red bandanas, and then the Shredder was going to get some kind of a color piece to him as well.
We've had some good news in Turtles world recently, actually, is that they're rebooting the franchise again.
Yeah, but you know what? I saw what they did the last time, and I am not.
I'm hoping that's the bottom of the barrel, though.
You know who they need to reach out to are the people who did the last two versions of the Turtles television show on Nickelodeon. And they need to say, we want a live action thing that keeps this same fun, because those series were so much fun to watch.
I would love to see physical actors in suits, but with digitally altered headpieces, kind of like in Where the Wild Things Are. I'd love to see someone with the storytelling sensibility of the Russos, or Marvel Studios, which like understands where fans are coming from and what it is about these things that they love. You watch Michael Bay properties, and when he does Transformers or he does Turtles, they have their own audience, but I would argue that they're, with the exception of some diehards, they're more of a Michael Bay audience. I was, with the exception, obviously Jackson Spade, who's been on the podcast before, has defended it. But to me, Transformers, which I was a fan of as a kid, is very different than this sort of quote unquote cool version that we get in Hollywood. Whereas like the Marvel films recall the feeling of these old comics that I read when I was growing up and are still able to be new and cool. We need that sensibility brought back to the Turtles franchise. And so that's why I have hope that, hey, this reboot has a chance to be better. We will always have Turtles reboots. There will always be new Turtles media coming out. So I'm ready to like let the Michael Bay version be left in the dust and or something else. We're getting to our guest today.
Yeah. So this is our good segue.
Our own personal April O'Neil.
Yeah,
Tall redhead. Look
there
at that.
You go. Well done. Dayna Del Val is our guest today, president and CEO of the Arts Partnership in Fargo, but she's been active in a ton of stuff even before that. And at the very beginning, she says that she's not going to let her job define her, which is a great way of thinking.
But she's a major figurehead in the arts community in town here.
She is. This is a big get for us. And I can say that because she's not in the studio right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm inflating, an ego or buttering her up. But this conversation, if you're not involved in the arts, but you're interested in the economics of Fargo Moorhead, if you're interested in the future of Fargo Moorhead, if you're interested in the future of North Dakota, Minnesota arts communities, or you just want to figure out where you should end up for your life, this interview with Dayna covers a lot of ground. And so, let's not waste any more time, huh? All right, let's get going with Dayna Del Val.
JJ Meets World.
Dayna Del Val, welcome to JJ Meets World. We're excited to have you this morning.
Thanks. I'm super excited to be here.
So first and foremost, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Who I am, citizen of Fargo, lifelong North Dakotan, except for a very brief blip in the Minnesota side in Moorhead. I'm working to define myself not by my job to get started. So what else am I? I'm an avid reader, JJ. Let's turn this into a personal.
Heck of a writer, too.
Thank you, sir.
I've read a lot of the written pieces that you've done.
I do a lot of it. Whether it's good or bad is up for other people's conjecture. No, I'm the president and CEO of the Arts Partnership. So I am kind of the voice and the face of the arts in the Fargo Moorhead West Fargo community.
You're a warrior for arts is what I like to refer to you as.
Thanks.
Because I feel like a warrior goes in to get things done.
Yes.
Sometimes it's dirty and
Yep.
gritty, but it gets things done. At the end of the day,
That's my favorite thing. That was worth coming over here. If
Yeah,
nothing
an
else
arts
goes
warrior.
well, I will take that with me.
There's a
There you
good
go.
chance nothing else is going to go well. So glad we got something positive right off the bat.
you can throw that on a bumper sticker if you want.
T-shirts.
There you go.
Yep.
Everyone listen to I'm on this podcast of JJ Meets World, but stop after the 3-minute mark.
Right, downhill.
Sometimes people listen. So at the end of each episode, after we've begged people for a little bit of money to support this podcast,
Yeah.
we have a 10-second little blip of something, and most people say that's their favorite part because it's something silly and goofy. I don't know what
Unexpected.
this episode's going to be, but we'll see.
I can't wait.
Yeah, but you got to sit and wait through it. So,
Okay,
yeah.
happy to do it.
If we could get rid of high-speed scrubbing
Yeah.
on podcast apps, we would, to force people to
To
listen
force
the
people
whole
to
thing.
listen. Wow.
Yeah, right.
I-
We're the
I don't
VHS
know enough of-
tape of podcasting. So let's start with this. I remember sitting in a meeting with you
Okay.
almost 10 years ago, maybe, and somebody asked you to blog about something, and you had this little impassioned speech about why does everything have to be about blogging online? Why can't we embrace people actually reading a letter, like sending a letter out to places? Do you remember this at all?
I do not.
This was African Soul, American Heart.
Okay.
My Aunt Deb was running
Yep,
the meeting.
yep.
And I remember thinking, like, that is probably a good idea because sometimes people just think, well, I'll just write a blog and then I can hit send and it goes to 1 million people. But you're advocating for a physical piece of writing.
Gosh. Okay. So, I'll say that probably the truest thing about me is that the universe waits for me to get impassioned and then goes, and does the exact opposite. So, of course, what do I do mostly now is
gotta
write
blog.
blogs. Yeah. I took a B in a graduate level class because blogging was a requirement, and I simply refused to do it.
Jeez.
Really?
Well,
It's a
this was
stance.
early in the internet world. I'm pretty old. And I just thought, this is preposterous. Why are you forcing me to do this stupid thing? Either let's talk about it face to face or let's not. But I'm not going to construct this intellectual thing on a computer screen because you've told me to. This was the dial-up era. I got my grad degree quite a while ago.
Had it been on paper, would you been like, oh, that's cool. No problem. On paper and submit it to you?
Only really on scrolls and some sort of beautiful feather pen. Yeah, no, it just felt really artificial at the time. And often blogging still feels kind of artificial to me. Like, oh, how many people are going to read this? In my case, it's often about 4. So I know I'm creating something that I don't think anybody's paying attention to, but I certainly have. The universe has helped me adapt my stance on blogging.
You have a slightly better readership level than we have listening to this podcast. So don't worry about it.
So you're topping out at 3?
Sometimes 4.
Well,
Okay.
we saw your blog stats, and I was like, JJ, we got to boost up our numbers. Let's get Dana.
We got to get to 6, buddy.
Dana on.
So we're living in a world that's drastically changed because of the internet and because of technology. And I think it's a weird time to be an artist as well, because everyone carries around a great camera, and so they can just walk into your gallery and take a photo of your art and pop it on their desktop and enjoy it without paying for it or appreciating the actual physical piece. And then you've got people who are embracing that and saying, gosh, I'm going to start building. I was looking at an app recently called Canvas.
Okay.
And it allows an artist to have a digital paintbrush. So any color you could imagine. And you actually paint on a physical canvas, and then it duplicates it onto a digital version. So that when you've got it, you don't have to worry about scanning it. You don't have to worry about someone coming in to photograph it. And then you can send it out, and it embeds all this code in it. So if someone posts it without you authorizing, you can then turn around and sue them.
Because there's nothing better than being litigious.
Right.
That is our God-given right as Americans to just sue the hell out of people.
That's why artists are poor, because they use all their money on lawyers.
on law.
Litigation.
On litigation.
Yes.
I know there are people out there who have taken historical photos and retouched them slightly. Maybe they threw a sepia tone on it, but embed that same technology and are hoping for someone to use it in a blog. They're hoping for somebody to just, post it somewhere where they can all of a sudden sue, just sue.
Wow.
That's their whole purpose.
That's too bad.
Isn't it too bad?
That's an unfortunate stance to take in life.
It's weird, though, because every time there is some new version of what you're talking about, which is called digital rights management, DRM, almost instantly there's a workaround. Because there's no such thing as like a line of code that, unless it's a quantum computer created code, that couldn't eventually be broken. And creating a digital copy of media is actually fairly easy, and oftentimes that process alone is enough to take all that stuff out. So you're right. Like, there are these weird attempts, or these, I guess, novel attempts to adapt to the new technology, but I think they're just wrong-headed. It's like, no, it's not about like coming up with a new security. It's coming up with a new philosophy of how you're going to be distributing this. I mean, let's say, it's the 80s and Metallica puts out an audio tape. How are they going to track, like, if you take that over to Maz's house and be like, hey, Maz,
let's just copy
we're
this.
2 teenagers in the 80s for some reason.
Which we
right
were.
Now. Yeah.
Not together, but we were teenagers in the 80s.
Yeah, like, let's say you made him a copy and shipped it to wherever he was, to England.
Yes.
Because
Metallica didn't make it over there.
They're not going to know about that, right? So, like, what was wrong with it then, but now it's not okay?
I know that some people...
It's an existential question, Tucker.
That's what I'm here
We could
for.
spend probably 6 or 8 hours just pondering this.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Maybe silently in our head. I think that's an excellent podcast.
I've had 3 events in my life where someone has stolen my intellectual property and used it for their personal or business gain.
Yep.
And at first I'm really angry, and then I'm kind of flattered, and then I get angry again.
Yeah.
And so it's a back and forth. So as someone who advocates for art and artists, are people talking about that? Are they concerned about, intellectual property theft?
I think people are concerned about it. I think it feels so vast and impossible that it's kind of hard to wrap your brain around it. I will say that in August, Springboard for the Arts, which is a St. Paul-based arts advocacy organization, is coming to Fargo, and we're hosting an event with Miguel Danielson, who's an attorney, specifically about this kind of work. Sort of, how do you protect your intellectual artistic property? So I'll be really curious to hear what he says are sort of, legal bounds and how you do that, because you're right. Today, everything can be stolen or lifted or adapted. Your voice can suddenly show up places. Your head can go onto somebody else's body. And I don't know. I don't know how you deal with it. I will say I don't think it's been an enormous problem in Fargo. We're not looking at Jennifer Lawrence naked pictures of local people, those kinds of things.
Yet.
Or at least I'm not. I'm pretty shallow in my internet searching, so maybe I'm missing the point.
That's why you use a password generator on your iCloud account, JJ.
Or you just don't take photos like that with a digital
Don't
device
blame the
or any
victim.
device.
Don't blame the victim.
I'm just saying,
I do sort of aside with JJ on this. I'm not blaming the victim. I'm just questioning, did you really think that might not happen?
Especially when you're in the
when you're
public eye like that.
Yes.
I guess I'm fully in support of adults taking nudies of, if it's for listen, this is not for that hacker. This is for you, my boyfriend.
Let me see your phone right now. Give me access to your photos and let me just
Hope
see.
you like cat pictures.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so when I open Tucker's phone,
the only person who has a photo of a part of me, I think, is you.
it is me.
Yeah.
It is true. And I know that party specifically.
It's a blackmailable photo. This is why I'll never run for office.
So I'm going to be honest.
I'm sure that's the only
JJ's
reason,
got the
Tucker.
goods.
There are nothing on here but pictures of me, Tucker in a luchador mask, and cats.
That is no surprise to
be
me.
fair, JJ is sleeping in all the photos.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. What is this?
I wanted to bring up a point though about the changing technology. The flip side of it is that artists, at least from what I see, tend to be on the front line of adapting new technology to see what can I make with this. And I think a really good example of it, and I was thinking of it when JJ, you were talking about the device that records your painting. In virtual reality, there's amazing software now where you can paint in 3D space and basically imagine painting in the air and walking around your painting and painting on the other side and making it grow and making it shrink and applying other effects to it. And then you can upload that to the internet and other people can then download your art to look at it up close. So imagine, you're like, I've never been able to go see the Sistine Chapel, but I'm going to load it up in this program. I feel like I'm in the Sistine Chapel, but then I'm going to zoom in on the detail above me. So when technology progresses, it both changes the toolkit for an artist and then opens up new ways for them to lose money by not being able to control how they monetize it in any ways.
I think it's all good and bad. I mean, I think I agree with you. I think artists are often on the front edge because it's an artist's job to push boundaries and to think about what the next iteration of their work or their creative endeavors are. And I think you have to sort of recognize that you live with a beast. The internet is kind of a beast, and you can fight against it and lose, or you can sort of embrace it. It used to be, certainly when I graduated from college with my theater degree, nobody thought to themselves, I could possibly have a career as an artist in Fargo, North Dakota, of any kind. Which is why I'm like the 40-ish year old artist in the community, because all my peers moved because we had to. And today you can live here and you can have a real career and you can be doing work with people all over the world. And that's the upside to this beast of the internet, is that you're immediately accessible to everybody. So I think you have to sort of adapt to the downsides, figure out what's best, and then you have to embrace the tremendous opportunity. You think about the fact that you no longer have to live in Hollywood to make a full feature-length film. That's amazing.
It is amazing. And Dana, you hit on something that I have been preaching about for so long, which is that we need to retain a creative class here in Fargo.
100%
and
true.
It starts with showing people who are in middle school and high school that there are opportunities here.
Absolutely.
When I graduated in 2002, I could not wait to get out of this one-horse town.
Yep.
And I thought, there's nothing for me here. I've got to go to Chicago if I want to follow improv. I've got to go to New York if I want to follow theater. I've got to go to LA if I want to follow movies. And through a set of circumstances, I stayed in Fargo. And within the first 6 months, I thought, what? There's so much more going on here than anyone realizes.
Yes.
And so, amen.
Yeah.
And you've done a really great job promoting that through the arts partnership too. And so,
thank you.
So, Martha Olson did a great job too. And I'm really impressed with what the arts partnership has become. And so, I want to touch on one thing real quick and then get into something that I can't wait to talk to you about, Dana. Yeah. And it all
Stay tuned.
This is probably the most linear discussion we've ever had without veering off into other parts.
We haven't even talked about poop yet. How has that happened?
I know. Or movies. I haven't talked about
I think we're not
something.
going to talk about that first subject.
Yeah.
I'm just going to.
We just did.
Tucker
All right.
just made it.
Damn it.
So
There's a risk coming on a podcast that I work on, Dana.
Risk and reward.
Can you imagine in the near future when you open a gallery show, right? You're not just opening it in your town because people walk into a warehouse, an empty warehouse with VR headsets, and they can attend the gallery as well. So you've got this opening that goes on everywhere, and then they'll have a rave as part of it. And then it'll be all about hacking in. And so Banksy will start hacking in and just digitally spray painting art. That'll be wild. So this is what I was going to get at.
It's going to be like the Joker scene in the first Batman movie.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what you hack into it with.
It's going to be the Joker scene meets the net.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The net where she orders pizza online
And
in
everyone was like,
1997. You go
"What?"
like, no, that'll never happen.
Yep.
And
Someone
now it
hacked
does.
into the mainframe.
That movie was boring even when it was made. And it was futuristic. And it was, I just remember thinking, if this is the future, it's time to check out. This is a boring future.
It didn't really show how isolated that users of the internet became.
It's true.
Same thing with the movie Hackers. Ahead of their time, but oh boy, is it fun to watch
That's
those now.
Angelina Jolie, isn't it?
Correct.
Big
Yeah, I
first
like how
breakout
you-
role, I think.
Yeah.
If I made movies professionally, I would never include a cell phone as part of it because I think that dates movies so fast nowadays. Don't you think?
Interesting. How would people communicate? Just in their mind?
Well, I think that if you have a scene that involves a telephone, you make them use a telephone or just like
Where would you even get a
video chat.
telephone?
I don't know.
I'm about to give my final landline telephone to Inspire Innovation Lab so they can deconstruct it and be amazed at what's inside it.
Really?
Character's going to be like, I need to call the police. We got to go to Bonanzaville.
One of the guys that you crank.
Yeah. Oh, like
Operator.
the lassie, like
Operator.
give me the Hoskins farm.
Post haste.
Well, people also forget that back in the day, if you had an office that had more than one phone, you had a switchboard somewhere.
Sure.
You had to hire
Which
a whole
was
person to do
Yeah.
was
this.
my first childhood dream job.
Was being
I
a switchboard
really
operator?
wanted to be a telephone operator.
Really?
Something about that was very appealing to me.
It's the networking. That's what it is.
Maybe.
You were born for networking.
There it is. Thank goodness we've uncovered that.
I like to eavesdrop, and I know that's a part of it because you have to
It's true.
disengage the
You have to
connection.
carefully engage and disengage. Yeah.
So you sit there and you listen. One of my favorite scenes in the show Mad Men is when they need information about what's going on, and they pull one of the women out of the phone room, and they're like, "We need to know about this." You know, I'm not allowed to talk about anything I hear.
Right. You know that woman's career is better than mine. It's very disappointing. I've had a fine career, but that we're talking about her.
Yep, right now it's
Disappointing.
happening.
Yeah.
I think the actress who was named Christy Madigan.
I feel like
Krista
I know
Madigan.
something about her. She's gone on to do some other. Like that was a springboard role for her.
Yeah, people really enjoyed it. Eventually, did you watch the show Mad
I
Men?
did.
She was the she wanted to get out into the secretarial pool, and she was the one who was driving the John Deere tractor that ran over the guy's foot. And so I think that's the last episode of Mad Men you see her in, but she's done some other stuff since
She
then.
has. I can't place her at all, but I just remember that whole thing and reading about her.
Yeah. Okay.
All right,
so
back to the subject at
Back to
hand.
the subject at hand. So artists are at the forefront of this, and the beast of the internet is sometimes not getting paid for your art because
Yeah.
people are taking it, which is why I truly feel that there should be public funding.
Oh,
for
shut
arts.
up. Now, let's not get crazy.
Let's not get too crazy on this one, but I'm a firm believer, and I feel like you're going to follow suit on this
bet
one.
you're probably right.
That the city government, in conjunction with private entities and individuals, have a duty to support art in their community because the arts make sense.
Yes.
CENTS.
Yes.
And then dollars. So tell me what you think about public funding for the arts.
Okay, so let me start by saying we get public funding from the 3 cities currently, which we're very grateful for. And it's really interesting. So I spent this last year traveling. I went to about 20 cities in the United States and 4 in Norway, specifically looking at arts and economics. Thank you, Consensus Council, for that grant. So a number of cities do not get city funding the way that we do. That is not a given. Most states give better funding than North Dakota because most states just see the value of doing it. So that's a piece of a lot of funding for people. And then there's often much, much, much better business support in these other communities. And this is a huge, huge piece, I think, for North Dakota. There are foundations in other states. North Dakota has very few foundations, and we have almost no foundations of serious, serious money. So, at Kalamazoo, Michigan, the equivalent to the Arts Partnership has a $900,000 budget. They get $800,000 from a local foundation.
Really?
Okay, well, that changes everything. I mean, that's 1.5 times my budget. So that's a place. Des Moines, Iowa gets a piece of the lodging tax. We get no piece of the lodging tax. And an interesting thing about that, I'm a little off the rails here, but
Nope, keep going.
Interesting thing about that is that we tax for lodging in hotels right now 3 to 3.5%. Most other places are 7 to 16.
I recently booked a room in Chicago, and so
Yes, and
I
it's
know how
about
much I'm paying.
16%, I believe. And here's the thing. Does that keep you from going to Chicago?
Nope.
Nope. I've never looked at the tax on my hotel bill and thought, well, I just can't take this trip. You know it's going to be high, but it supports infrastructure that makes you want to go to Chicago. So that's a piece of it. Most places have a restaurant and beverage tax that goes to support these kinds of things. So there's lots of ways to do it, and we're not doing really any of them. So while I think the cities could be doing more, I don't think it's absolutely only on cities because tourism drives a lot of art and culture, and art and culture drives a lot of tourism. So we know that right now, based on this arts and economics study that we did, the nonprofit arts sector generates almost $42 million a year back into Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, just the nonprofits arts sector. That doesn't include anything that Jade Presents programs, nothing that happens at the Dome, nothing that happens at Shields Arena, just nonprofits. So if we know that that kind of money is coming in, we are disproportionately under supported for the amount that we put back. So my goal is really to look at all of these different models and figure out how we put something together that puts some onus on the citizens of the community, but also puts some onus on the tourists of the community, because if we've got more going on, more tourists will come.
Without a doubt. I also think that when it boils down to it, people take public art for granted.
Yes.
They get mad when Sunny is knocked down by a car or a windstorm or a drunk.
Yep.
But then they forget about it until
Yes.
the next time that it happens.
Yes.
And people just forget, and they take it for granted, and because it's always been there and they've been lucky
Right.
enough to enjoy it. I feel like that's happening with some of our summer arts theater programs.
Yes.
That are celebrating, was it 40th?
55 years.
For Straw Hat. That's
Trollwood is at almost 40.
I think that is amazing, and people just it's here. It's like the turtle races in Perm. They've just been happening for so long that they're just there. Well, it takes money and it takes resources and it takes human beings to be engaged with what's going on, and that's where we lose so much of the oomph that I think that people have.
Can I respond to that? I have two things to say to that.
Yeah.
One, part of the problem is that you will often hear artists say, even without funding, I'm going to make this. And I always say to them, go ahead and think that, but stop saying it out loud. Mm-hmm. Doctors don't say, even without funding, I'm going to do surgery. They just don't say that, in part because they have administrators who won't let them.
Sure.
But in part because they understand that to make surgery work, they need to be paid. And the second thing is I just was at a meeting this week, and a businessman in town was going on and on about how great downtown is and how exciting all these things are. And he's laying out all of these things that are happening through the nonprofit sector. And I said to the table, I'm really thrilled that you're so excited about this, and it's great that you have all this enthusiasm, but you want more and more and more, and nobody's paying for more and more and more. And so you're asking those of us in the nonprofit sector to continue to do more with less, and your enthusiasm is just not enough. It's just not. I love that people want to post pictures of how great stuff is downtown. You have to pay for it as well. Somebody has to pay for it. Somebody's paying for our roads to not be potholed. Somebody's paying for our sewer systems to work. That stuff gets paid for. We have to pay for art as well.
By the way, if there's an acoustic guitarist out there who'd like to get some exposure, I need some music for my niece's birthday coming up in a couple of weeks. There's no money, but you'll definitely get a lot of exposure from this.
I love that.
It'll be really
awesome.
Good for your career.
So good for your career because Tucker won't pay for it, but somebody else
for
will.
her little friends to see your music act. Now,
definitely, that's my favorite.
Dance.
It's my favorite thing.
You know, so I've gotten to a point now where people, when they offer me a gig that they can't pay for, will say, and we'll feed you. And be like, well, that's great, but it's still let's lay it out. For me to just drive to Devil's Lake is going to cost me $75 in gas.
Yep.
So who's covering just that? Because
are you feeding me 4 gallons of caviar? Because otherwise it's not food that I can't just get myself. Yeah.
I was speaking with the first billionaire that I know recently.
Good for you.
And I asked him, I said, well, what do you like about art? And he goes, well, you know, it's fine, I guess. And I said, okay. Just take a look around your home and your office the next time you're there.
Look down on your body.
Right. Oh, sure. Yeah, exactly.
Are you naked? There it is, Tucker. We got naked in.
We ended up with the conversation of, he's like, well, on my golf stream, you know, I had a guy come in and do this special
Detailing.
design. I said, see, because that's art. And so you've got enough money where you don't even understand the value of it anymore. So why don't you pay that forward to other people? My personal opinion, the problem that we have in Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo right now is we have lost those people of means who just know that the Ruth Landfields.
Yes.
Of this community, that generation seems to have dissipated, and the younger generations, and some of whom are in their 50s and 60s right now, don't understand that you need to reinvest your wealth back into the community. And you don't need to reinvest it for naming rights. You don't need to reinvest it because you think it would be a good PR piece.
Right.
You reinvest it because it means something to the community. I remember my grandfather telling me the importance of donating to Bonanzaville.
Yep.
And it was because he loved history. He loved that old West kind of feeling. And
he loved the crank telephone, just to circle back.
Yeah, right.
The town telephone.
And it's a real shame to me because I don't know how someone would go raising funds anymore. It seems like you have to throw a giant event to get people to come out, and even then they're like $40 a ticket.
Yeah. I feel like this part of the problem is probably the downside of mass media, in that people are used to the commodity of the deliverable. They're like, oh yeah, it's a movie. A movie costs $8 to go see. Right. And so they just think of it as, oh, yeah, it's like a product coming off a shelf. There's just a set price for it. Hey, how much for you to make me a movie? Hey, how much does a song cost? And it's really tough for people to wrap their head around the idea that you're not really necessarily paying for the final product, even though you kind of are, but you're also paying for all the time,
the experience,
and energy and effort and the life that artist had to lead to become the person that could make that painting for you. And so it's really difficult for a non-artist to quantify and understand these concepts sometimes. And I think it's because consumable media is just so readily available and is actually fairly cheap now because of mass media.
Well, because 7 billion people
exactly
have access to it.
Yeah.
I think there's a number of things going on. I think there is this very bizarre aversion to appearing to have money in this community. And so then it's like, I had a season where I met with a number of affluent people. And hi, sweetheart.
My dog decided that Dayna is the person to talk to right now.
I think Juno likes getting involved in the conversation.
It's
about
the
arts
economic
funding.
conversations that really inspire her. So it was super interesting to me because they each kind of passed the buck. They would say, who else are you meeting with? And I would say, and they would go, oh, they've got way more money than I do. Check with them. And they each did it. And it was fascinating to me. And you know what? At the end of the day, everybody's money is their money. They don't owe it to me or to anybody else. But there is this lost idea of, wow, I've been successful in this community. And I'm not making blanket statements because there are people who are giving generously all over the place. But the kind of foundational obligation to give back to your community, sort of the Warren Buffett model. I was in Omaha, one of those trips, and Warren Buffett's mentality has really permeated that community because he's shown by example. And that example does seem to be missing. The Betty Fedders, the Ruth Landfields, those women who really took that money and reinvested it. It's kind of gone. I think another thing is that there's a lot of giving, but it's giving at shallow levels. So I think there are still some very deep givers, but they're giving everybody $1,500. So their collective might be $300,000, but it's not changing individual organizations' capacity. And I don't want to sound ungrateful. This is a difficult conversation.
It is. Yep.
And then I think there is this commodification idea. We've made a big mistake in the arts because we've been forced to now start talking about the economics and the measurables. We know that the arts bring back $41.6 million. That number does matter, but what if they didn't bring that back? Wouldn't they still matter? Because we hosted an event at APT on mental health. We had 3 artists and a poet all talk about the fact that the arts have saved their lives because they all struggle with mental health issues, literally saved their lives. Don't they matter? I didn't generate any money that night. It wasn't a money raising event, but doesn't that matter that maybe somebody is here because they had access to art? There's a guy on the wall right now. It's his first art show. He's been incarcerated for 15 years, has many more years to go. Does his life not matter because he's in prison? I think it does. And I can't quantify that with dollars, but it still matters. And we've lost some of that in our fervor to prove that we economically matter.
Art is a really interesting, or at least can be seen as a really interesting expression of value on the part of the artist, right? For whatever reason, I'm choosing to put these images on this canvas because they have meaning of some sort.
Yep.
And quantifying that meaning in dollars and cents is sometimes next to impossible, especially because it can have so many other factors that deal with it too, right? Like certain artists command certain prices because of whatever PR they got. I'm curious, obviously the funding is as an issue is primary, but are there other ways besides merely writing a check or handing over money or something that you also try to talk people in, or convince them like, hey, this is a really good idea to support. Maybe someone doesn't want to donate money, but maybe we can talk them into going and seeing a play every once in a while and paying for a ticket or things like that. What other ways could we find to convince people to support art that might not necessarily be, hey, could you please sign
a great
here
big check
and write a couple digits?
So checks, that's the easy way
to
get money. I love a good check. But really, at the end of the day, the other area that matters to me, and in some ways matters more, is this idea of engaging in the arts. Because we know that, we know what we all know, that millennials can choose where they want to live. If you're a young engineer, you can live in any city in the world because everybody needs engineers. So you're picking your community and then you're finding the engineer job that's interesting to you. So if that's true, which we know that it is, then how are we getting engineering companies to not only and always do a golf outing as their team engagement, but maybe once a year to say, let's plan a arts magical mystery tour. So 2 weeks ago, I took 21 Concordia professors, most of whom were not in the arts, on a magical mystery tour. We went to 7 locations. We met with artists, arts organizations. We had Nancy Olson, who's a culinary artist, culinary genius, I would argue, do lunch. We made some art. We did this whole thing. It was a full day. They walked away from that completely surprised at what this community has to offer, thinking about how their math students and their math research, their political science, their computer science, all these fields might be able to plug in, and also grew in their appreciation of a community that none of them are native to. So is that not as valuable as a golf outing or as a office team Olympics or all the things you see all over social media, the sports stuff that people are doing to keep their office employees engaged and to, build camaraderie and all that. And that's great. But I can do that too. I can take you to a show. I can introduce you to a behind the scenes thing. I can walk you through this. I can do all those things and you'll have the same outcomes, but you'll also not only be catering to the sports.
Yeah. You know what I think is a real coup move that you guys have done is I get the email from the Arts Partnership about we're buying an ad in Bison Illustrated.
We're buying another one in August.
I saw that.
Yep.
And what a genius move, because sure, if the people who are picking up Fargo Monthly or Design and Living, they're already plugged into the arts.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yep.
And then more blanket statements.
Do you think anyone orders that magazine and then is disappointed to find out it's not drawings of buffaloes?
Probably.
The Design and Living or the Fargo Monthly?
Any of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bison Illustrated?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Oh, well done, Tucker.
Apparently not.
You're so clever.
These two quote-unquote artists weren't able to pick up on my roguish
your witty
wit.
repartee.
Tucker is launching a new pun-based podcast called Puncast.
It's called Too Much Coffee in the Morning. Sorry.
It's going to be a limited run.
Mm-hmm.
But you're putting that message in front of somebody who, let's put the cards on the table, who are not engaging in the arts as much. And now all of a sudden it's in front of their face.
On page 5.
Ooh.
Yep. We're not messing around.
I like that. And so those are the interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
I look at how places like Creatively Uncorked
Yep.
have become big, and it's become a popular evening out for younger people, older people,
Couples,
children.
friends. Yeah. Yep.
And I think, there's people want to get engaged with the arts, but sometimes you have to just put it right in front of them. And of course, nowadays you're competing with a lot.
Yeah.
As Fargo continues to grow, which is great, and it allows more people to be here.
Yep.
The competition grows.
Yep.
And it should.
Absolutely. Competition is a good thing. I don't view us as being in competition with Bison football. First of all, that's like apples and asteroids. Mm-hmm. And we might be the apple. We're not in competition with them. We are in addition to them, or they're in addition to us. You can come here and you can enjoy a Saturday football game from a top-notch team, and then you can go enjoy Saturday theater from a top-notch theater company. And then Sunday you can go to brunch at one of our local really amazing, you go to Birnbaum's, you go to the food co-op, you go someplace where a culinary artist is doing that. And Friday night you've gone to a gallery opening. And it's not an either or. And so that's really our goal, is to help people understand that you can be a Bison football fan lover. You can tailgate. You can buy your tickets to Frisco right now because they're going for number 7. You can do all of that. But you can also love and support the arts, and they're not mutually exclusive.
In fact, they're actually rather intertwined. And I think a lot of people who are specifically a sports fan, let's use Bison as an example, don't necessarily make the connection that a lot of the things they appreciate about this team and about going to a sporting event are intrinsically tied in with people who are artists. So everything from the design of the uniforms, the logo that the team uses, the advertising that they use, the video promos they make, when it's a live TV shoot and you've got a director and producer switching and making camera decisions. Yeah. These are aesthetic choices.
And the music.
These are choices that, and the halftime show or whatever else there is, these are choices that are aesthetic, that are being made by someone who got to a point where they were able to be good at doing that. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously to someone who's a sports fan, that just blends into it, right? It's part of the package. And so they might not necessarily realize that they're actually a big fan of art. They just have a very particular taste.
Right. Well, I think about when Carson Wentz was selected for the Eagles, that promo video. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm because I grew up in a sportsy and artsy household, I can weep at all of those videos because they're so well done. I was sobbing through that video. I didn't even know who Carson Wentz was. My poor parents are expiring right now. But, that video was so powerful. And in part, it's because there's slow motion and the music and the drama and all of that. And that's really what we're trying to push is that transcends onto a stage, onto a canvas. The first time I ever saw a Monet, I was 18 years old. I was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City by myself. I turned a corner, I saw my first Monet, and I burst into Snoopy tears. They just sprang from my face.
Snoopy tears, I love that.
And I spend a lot of time with those because things are moving. Mm-hmm. Art is moving. And you're right. Imagine if the Bison came out onto that field with not that song by AC/DC, right? I mean, if they just
wearing brown like they work for UPS.
Yes.
Just brown. Yep.
Yeah, just like, all right, guys, who wants to start the game? Who wants to flip the quarter or whatever they do? Imagine that. Imagine if the promo videos had no sound under them, and if it was just like my iPhone catching it. The artistry of what makes us excited about sports is a huge piece of it.
Even the radio announcer, the person who's following the game and telling you about it.
That'd be Dan Michaels, voice of the Bison.
that ability to synthesize information and then communicate it in some way. Like at its most basic, I'd say creativity is all about finding a relationship between two things where previously there didn't seem to be one.
Yeah.
And so someone who is good at doing that, I have an uncle who is an amazing sports broadcaster. And
that's an art.
When I listen to him do it, I'm like, this is someone who has, it's a craft, right? They're a craftsperson. Artists are craftspeople.
Yeah, they are.
And just because that craftsperson hasn't built a chair that you're sitting in,
right,
but a painting that's on the wall or a piece of audio that you're listening to, it's as valuable.
Are you guys World Cup watchers?
Yeah.
So,
Don't speak for both of us, JJ.
You're not?
Are you Guy
No.
World Cup watcher?
Oh, yeah.
I had to download the app.
I played soccer and I don't watch the
don't-
World Cup.
Boo.
You don't get into like the fervor of it?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. The commentator from Central or South America, who is bonkers as hell, he's super engaging. I can be watching a game and doing something else, and as his passion increases, I know it's time to look up. It's absolutely the artistry of sports is exquisite, and the translation is sometimes not seen, and that's unfortunate.
So slightly switching gears here.
Excellent.
So Dayna, I hear your voice on commercials.
You do
quite
occasionally.
A bit. I've seen you in like television commercials and ad campaigns.
Live on stage at Theater B a couple times.
Yeah, not for a long time.
Well, I was gonna go to be getting paid to be an artist, so we'll leave the stage stuff. Even though I think it's awesome, Theater B pays their artists.
I do
That's
too.
really sweet. So doesn't it kind of stink that we live in a community that will tape something once and then you can be in it for the next 15, 20 years and only get paid once?
So I shot the first legendary tourism ads.
I remember.
I remember
I remember a
12
shot of you in a
years ago.
convertible.
There I was with a buffalo and a very upset mother buffalo about 4 feet from me, and me turning. You can see, if you're a lip reader, you can see me turning to Tom Tollefson and going, I think this is bad.
Tommy T.
Yep.
Shout out to Tom Tollefson, by the way.
Shout out to Tom Tollefson.
Video
a little
Santa.
bit of shtick. Absolutely. Anyway, shot that thing, I think 12 years ago. I'm on the guide again this year.
Are you?
Josh Duhamel's getting paid. You know he's getting paid every time he shows up. And I'm not really likening myself to Josh, although if anyone can get me to Josh, I have lots of ideas for how we could use him.
Oh.
But yeah.
We
it's-
got a tweet from him when we bought out that screening of Love, Simon.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And so I think that he likes North Dakota, and I think he
he
gives
does
people
too.
like a little extra.
I think
oomph
you're
here.
absolutely
But
right.
do you think once Carson Wentz got in the Eagles, he was like, damn it, I'm going to not win anymore. I'm no longer going to win
it's a
those
competition.
most famous celebrity things in the forum.
Maybe they'll team up. Maybe there'll be a North Dakota duo that'll
Well,
travel.
Sanford figured out how to use them together.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
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 Anyway, I
At any
interrupted
rate,
you.
what are we talking? Oh, yes, it stinks because
Yeah.
I shot that, and at the time I was dirt poor, and I felt like the money I made on that was incredible. Mm-hmm. But yes, they've certainly gotten their money's worth out of that shoot. I did a national Best Western ad and was supposed to just be background and got upgraded to a principal when I got to the shoot, and I made like 5 times on an ad that ran for 13 weeks. No, I probably ran actually for about 4 months because I got great residuals. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we take so much pride in not using professional actors because I'm sorry, you can tell, and B, paying bottom line. I don't need to make commercials because it's fun to be in front of a camera. I make commercials because I'm a professional actor, and you're lucky to get me.
Right. Because I am cheaper than anyone who's coming out of any other city.
Absolutely.
You don't have to put me up. You don't have to fly
Right.
me in.
Yep.
So you really use
Just
it.
have to. I like M&Ms, but I'll take any color. That's how easy I am.
Oh, I like it. There we go. I just find that, and of course, we're a non-union state.
Yep.
And so that goes hand in hand with it.
Yep.
But I talk to friends of mine who perform in Las Vegas, for example. So their performers union includes a Teamsters union that handles props. Wow. You cannot actually pick up your prop off of the table. You have to, there's an individual there who picks it up and then hands it to you, and then you hand it back to them, and then they put it back in its spot.
Yep.
And every casino has 30, 40 of these people
Kinda handler
who
types.
work
Yep.
for their shows. And that's not a bad thing. That's
Nope.
somebody having a job.
It's a career.
It
Yes,
is.
absolutely. No, this state, I really struggle with the state of North Dakota. I both am really proud to be from here. I think we are the quirkiest, weirdest little place that can and should be doing so much more in so many ways. We should be at the forefront of rural health care and the best education, and we should be at the forefront of using the arts to prop up small communities, to drive tourism, to do all these things because our population is so small. We could be super nimble. And we're not doing that. And it's really frustrating. We should have a tax credit for professional films that want to come here and shoot because we've got topography up the wazoo. And it's not just Medora that's got interesting space. It's the entire state, top to bottom, west to east. And the fact that we cannot get that passed is just another example of what is wrong with this state.
When I've talked to lawmakers and they say, well, we don't want to just be giving all of these people all this money. I said, no. Okay. This is an industry that doesn't exist yet.
Yep.
So we already, it's not like we're losing money. That money's already not being spent in the state of North Dakota. Tucker and I were at a filmmaking convention in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Okay.
And when we got down there, we said, why Albuquerque?
Yep.
What a weird choice. They said Albuquerque as a city chose to give this tax incentive. And it was an interesting base because 50% of your crew had to be comprised of local individuals.
Yep.
So their
you
tech
can
school
set great rules.
Great rules. Their tech school went from teaching welding to teaching lighting.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Albuquerque became this huge mecca hub for filmmaking. And Albuquerque was standing in for Cleveland, and it was standing in for New York City, and it was standing in for Memphis. And so
we must have driven past 3 or 4 different film shoots going on in that city.
They were making Sin City at the time.
Yep.
Wild Hogs.
Yeah, because Rodriguez, I think, shoots
exclusively,
around there all the time.
Yeah. Well, then Breaking Bad, obviously.
Are his studios in Albuquerque?
They might be.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
Let's
were.
say yes.
Yeah, let's say yes.
Of course they are.
They're not in Fargo. We know that much.
And so what's disappointing is I hear this rumor, and I've never been able to substantiate it, but in the 80s, a bunch of the major Hollywood studios looked at a parcel of land outside of Grand Forks. It was like Warner Brothers and Universal and
I've
New
heard
Line.
this too.
Okay, so maybe there's some truth to it. And they said, we want to build the world's largest covered studio space and do the same thing that we did with the Warner Brothers ranch in Texas, but up here. The only thing is we need some tax incentives so that we don't have, we're talking about $1 billion building here, but we would like to not have to pay property tax on it for 25 years just to, make our money back. And it wasn't even a conversation. It was like, well, no, we're not interested.
Yep.
No, thank you. And to me, I look at the people like the Art Phillips of the world who have a business in North Dakota that was established, already making things. But if we gave a tax credit and we were competitive with that tax credit, all of a sudden our hotels are filling up because people are traveling here. We're retaining a creative class. So if you want to become a costumer, you don't have to move to LA or New York. And then we're adding jobs for people who don't want to be in front of the screen. They want to be behind the scenes. They want to be doing electrical work. We get more journeyman electricians and set builders, all of this stuff. And then people like Art Phillips can say, I'm going to invest and buy a fleet of trucks.
Yes.
And my fleet of trucks will be what they use when they're up here and they're shooting in Bismarck or Minot or heck, Minto if they're shooting, in rugby.
North Dakota is actually pretty ripe for that because you basically have to go to Minnesota to get those services if you are shooting in North Dakota.
Absolutely.
That's where all those things are. So it's like this area where, I've been living in North Dakota my whole life. I bet I know most of the top level video producers in this state. And that's not because we're all elite. It's like there's not very many people.
There's not very many. No,
so it's pretty
a small
easy
community.
to meet them all.
Yeah. I think about John Wanzik shooting Valley of Bones in Bowman, Amadon, that area. So I was born in Bowman, so I have a lot of family there. They filled every hotel room for, 6 or 7 weeks. They sold out the restaurants. They put unbelievable money into Bowman County. Indescribable amounts of money, and then got dinged by the unions because it wasn't a union state.
Yep.
And he did it anyway. What would have happened? What could happen if we incentivized it? John wants to make films in the state, but how many films is he going to make when he's paying dings to the union for making films? It's so short-sighted. There is so much about this state that is short-sighted, and I'm so frustrated by that. And the arts are the piece that I know most and that I focus on most, but it's not the only issue. But it's an issue that's so solvable if anybody in Bismarck would just open up their mind and stop saying no to anything that is new, that is somewhat out of the realm of agriculture and infrastructure.
Yeah. And So first of all, I mean,
I'm jacked
obviously,
up now.
I'm jacked up too because it seems so simple. And I've talked to local city leaders in Fargo and in Moorhead, and they kind of give me the same thought of like, well,
because the minute you bring up anything that sounds like it could be a tax or an abatement of some sort,
But this is technically a tax cut, right? What we're kind of talking about at
right.
the moment.
That's
But you think they would be like,
yeah,
right.
But they They see a tax cut though as a loss.
Yes.
They see that as the city is losing money.
Right.
But as I said
I
earlier,
guess I was thinking about the state, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But you're not getting that money anyway.
right. It's not money that's here.
Right.
Because let's see, who else besides John Wanzik has shot a film here in the last 25 years?
Right.
We can't keep referencing Woolly Boys.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, you and I were well, I'm a lot older than you. I was in junior high. You guys were in elementary school when Woolly Boys was
I
shot.
remember Woolly Boys. I saw that.
Were you alive?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
alive.
okay.
Oh, yeah. How old
Okay.
do you think I am, Dana?
19?
In fact, this kind of, but I wish this kind of, I'm sorry, this is going to be a little bit of a digression here, but I was thinking about this whole time and I was like, oh my God, that's totally right. I've known Dana probably longer than any other person that I know in the arts community, including you, Greg Carlson, the Wintersteins, and the Horvicks.
Because you were a seventh grader,
Because
right?
Dana was the assistant teacher for my totally Trollwood class.
There it is.
And I just like to say, we drove her fucking insane one day. She was like,
That's probably true.
We were bratty, we were energetic, and I remember one day, Dana, like,
Did I lose my mind?
you had a come to Jesus talk with all of us.
Oh, good for me. I
And
love those.
we respected it, and then I think things got better after that because I don't remember who was the main teacher for that.
Maggie Malloy, maybe? She
Can't
came
rem-
from New York.
Yeah, she had no control over and didn't really care. Was like
She was interesting, but she was too creative.
yeah, and
To manage.
Dana's job was to be bad cop. And so like
I relished
we
it.
made her be bad cop one time.
Yep.
But I was just thinking
forgot
that. I was
about
like,
that.
that's right. I've known Dana for longer
Yeah,
than
you
almost
were like a baby when I met you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You were
Anyways,
also bonkers talented.
was the operative word there.
Yeah, no, it's all down. It's gone downhill definitely.
I'm the
since
same
then.
height as I was then.
I am too.
I know that for a fact.
Same facial hair too.
Yep.
Yep, that was
Smell the same?
yeah. You had more hair then.
Yeah.
On the top of your
On
head.
the top of my head.
It's just moved down.
It migrated
Yeah.
and had babies.
In
I don't know what I'm saying now.
In a previous podcast, Tucker and I spoke about how the first time we've spent any real time together, we are camping out for a very forgettable movie in the back of his van, which clearly had a gas leak because we all got up and we were all kind of sick and all a little dizzy. And it
My
was like
1975 Ford Econoline conversion van
Yeah.
that was covered in shag carpeting that someone had.
Hey, I think it was probably the off gas of the shag carpeting. It might not have been the gas line. Wow.
It probably was. I didn't think about
That's
that.
true.
That's true. So Dana, let's talk about things other than just strictly art for just a second,
Sure.
right? Just a second. So you've chosen to make Fargo your home
Yeah.
because you see potential in it, or because this is a comfortable place, or because you like the prairie sunsets?
It's Maz. He will not leave.
It's true. No,
We're going to talk about Maz a little bit here pretty
Yeah,
soon.
I know.
just
I
because
love that
you
man.
love Maz more than I love Maz, and I have a deep affinity for
I
Maz.
doubt that.
Mary.
I just think it's a different kind of love. I really doubt that.
I don't know, Tucker. We can discuss that in a moment. Let's see. Okay, so yes, and yes. I mean, I do believe constantly that we are at a tipping point. I believe that by banging my face repeatedly into the brick wall that is Fargo, North Dakota, West Fargo and Moorhead, we are starting to see some change. And by no means do I think I'm banging my face by myself. This is a community of arts activists. But I believe that the arts can and should be more important here, and that we are closer all the time to that happening. So when I look at other jobs, when other things come across my path, as they do from time to time, I find it very hard to actually think about leaving because I don't feel like my work here is done. That being said, it's a really exhausting place to be an arts warrior.
Yeah.
And I know that probably no place in the country with maybe the exception of Minnesota, can say, oh my gosh, my job is so easy. It doesn't feel like work. But other places, it is not this kind of uphill climb. So I would definitely go someplace else if the right job came along. It just hasn't come along yet. And I'm really proud of the work that we're doing at the Arts Partnership. And I do feel like we're making a difference. And I do feel like we're empowering artists to stand up and be proud of the work that they're doing. And I want to keep doing that.
Let's talk about the building we're in right now.
Okay. I love so much that you came back.
Me too. I'm super stoked.
When I walked by and saw your sign, I thought, that's amazing. So I'm sorry I didn't write to tell you I thought it was amazing.
That's
I love that you're
you
back.
were out of the country at the time.
Well,
She learned on a video on Facebook.
Yeah.
I did. It was so fun.
I am a huge fan of and this is a hidden gem because there just aren't enough people who have heard
Yes.
about Apt yet.
And that's all going to change with your 6 listeners today.
Right. And
Yeah.
and I think it's growing too.
I do too.
You can say Apt now and at least one person perks up and goes, "Oh yeah, I was
I've been
over there.
there.
I was at the
I finally
holiday
got
market."
the talk from Jeff Knight to stop calling it APT.
Oh,
That's
were
what
you?
I've been doing. I didn't know better.
Well, because it's a little abstract. Yeah.
Yeah.
I take APT. I don't care.
You do?
You call it anything you want. If you walk through the door, I don't care what you've called it.
So we've had 2 guests on this podcast who've recorded in this room who said, "I'm pretty sure I took a urinalysis test
for sure.
in this room."
I know a lot of weird stuff, mostly from middle-aged men, about things that they had to do in this building.
Right.
They feel compelled to tell me, and I never quite know where to look after
Government
that.
makes you do things when you sign on the
I
dotted
think that might be
line.
true.
Previous to the Arts Partnership moving in, this was the Army MEPS
It
Center,
was all
right?
branches of the military.
Yep.
Yep.
So you would, after you signed up, this is where you'd come for your physical examination.
That's why
your
we've kept
urinalysis.
the pull-up bar
Yeah,
out at the front
which
door.
I really like.
I know. I do too. I challenge people all the time when they say to me, I stood in my underwear. I say, well, would you like to go do a pull-up? No one has taken me up on it yet.
Really?
None.
Oh, well, we'll have to change that
I
soon.
agree.
Tucker is volunteering. He's raising his hand right now. You guys can't see
I
it.
haven't done a pull-up. Let me rephrase that. I haven't attempted to do a pull-up since 5th grade. And I know that specifically because you take that physical
The-
The
test.
Yes, the presidential
yeah.
physical
And I
fitness
remember
award.
Mr. D going, yeah, you can stop.
Yeah. I know.
No upper strength.
None.
That's
Me
why
neither.
I'm an artist.
I love, so I work out now at a gym and they've got a pull-up bar that has a set of weights attached to a gimbal. So if you can't do a pull-up on your own, this thing will help lift you up
I've
to
used
do it.
those machines. I'm good with those.
Me too.
Yes.
I love it. And
I
then
know. It
someone
feels
said,
very empowering.
like one day someone was on it and I'm like, oh, I just gotta do this. So I was like, I'll just go do this. I'll do my normal 10 pull-ups. And I am like, and I maybe made it halfway. And I thought, I maybe shouldn't call these pull-ups anymore. I should call these like assisted pull-ups. But
Pulling the sky down towards me.
when I first heard about this building, I was over the moon, and I can only imagine the background work that you had to do before you even had the chance to make an
Yes, you
announcement.
can.
This building is a series of what used to be exam rooms and small offices. Some of them even have sinks in them. Some of them, the first time I toured, looked like wrestling mats in them.
Yep.
And the Arts Partnership was given the opportunity to come in here and create small studio spaces and some large studio spaces and perfect studio spaces for artists. And not just in the way that people consume or think of art for, painting or sculpting, but there are people who are writing. There are people who are doing theater pieces and people who are recording podcasts.
Yes.
And anything you can say
We have
that
a
goes
music
under that art
producer in here.
umbrella. You have an art music producer too?
We do.
There you go. And live performance.
Yes.
And talk about the economy. It's got its markets. The Mother's Day market was huge.
Yep.
Creative
The holiday art
Mornings.
market. Yeah, Creative Mornings is starting next Friday on the 29th. That's super exciting.
And so
I'm sorry, what is the future for this building, though?
We have a year left, and then it will be torn down.
Then it's torn down.
Yep.
So that's another example of we've got this great thing going here, and it's about to be just obliterated from the
right,
face
which
of
we
the
knew
planet.
on the front
Sure.
end. I mean, the Kilbourne Group, who owns the building and has been really, really remarkable partners with us, was very clear. And many times when I'm with Mike Allmendinger, I say, don't you just want to build up and around this? And he always goes, so I know that's a no. He never says no, but it's very clearly a no.
I have driven down Main Avenue 1,000 times in the last year. There are plenty of buildings. And I think you talk about those people who are getting engaged. You're talking about the people from a generation previous. If they owned a warehouse that wasn't being used and someone would come and talk to them, it would be handed over in a heartbeat.
Yes.
You look at how facilities became facilities. The Creative Arts Studio was a section of a nuclear bomb shelter in Claire Barton Elementary School that was repurposed. And so if people are owning these buildings, it's time to repurpose them and get them excited about it. I drive by that stupid old auto dealership on Main, and I look at it and I'm like, why are we not engaging this as an arts facility? Who cares if a train goes by?
Right.
Most of these people, it wouldn't matter one iota.
No.
And I hate to tell you this, Fargo Moorhead, but nobody wants to put a big auto dealership on Main Avenue anymore.
No.
They're looking at the interstates.
Yep.
That place is not big enough, but it's got a huge parking lot. It's got a giant building. It's got a showroom in it already, so why not?
It's in some ways a move-in ready with some serious work kind of building.
Yeah.
No, we're in pretty serious conversations all over the place trying to figure out what's next. The purpose of this building was just to sort of try a proof of concept. And I give a lot of credit to Kilbourne because they brought the idea to us.
And a lot of sweat equity to it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the reason that it doesn't look like a military building anymore is because artists did what artists do. They moved in. I mean, even this room, we're sitting in a room that's gray and purple and interesting, used to be all oatmeal and super depressing.
Yep.
Goes really well with our logo, by the way.
It certainly does.
It's perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. So we're trying to figure out what's next. If there is a next, I believe now more firmly than ever that there needs to be a next, and it needs to be permanent and it needs to be supported. And if you're a business person listening, I'm not interested in your conversation of how you can make your money back. I'm interested in the conversation of you deciding that this is an investment in the future and then figure out how it's a tax write-off, because it absolutely can and should be. I am not a business. I am a nonprofit. And I need people to understand that the only way this will work is if we start from a fair shake financial place, because we can't go into debt to do this, because my constituents can't pay off $25 a square foot. That's just not realistic. It's just simply not.
Dayna, when you're talking to policymakers, and you had talked about the 40-some million number.
41.6.
41.6.
Yep.
Are there examples of other, I guess I'll just say industries or sectors that we invest more money in for less return that could be put as an example next to, like, listen, over here, because a lot of policymakers, especially in this area, it's really just the hard data they're looking at, and so are there examples of things that we invest much more heavily in for far less return than what we could be getting if we were funding public art?
That's an excellent question that I can't answer beyond speculation. But, if you think about, and hear me first saying, I'm super pro parks. I love parks. But think about the money that goes into the park district. They have a $27 million budget. Well, what do they generate? Parks are free, which is exceptional. We're so fortunate to have all the free green space that we have. But except for the golf courses and the infrastructure pieces, a lot of park programming doesn't generate any income. And we know that it's the right thing to do. And so we build more and we invest more, which we should. So it comes a little bit back to the unfairness, for lack of a better word, of having to prove our value. I feel about the arts a little bit like I feel about people saying, well, I eat a quart of ice cream every night and I don't exercise. I don't know why I'm putting on weight. Yes, you do. We have 1 billion studies that say if you are sedentary and eat poorly, then you are likely to be overweight.
Oh, that's what's going on.
I know. I'm sorry to break it to you. We have a billion studies that show why the arts have such intrinsic value to mental and physical health, to integrating minority populations, to helping people who've been incarcerated come back into society, to on and on and on. People with Alzheimer's. It's everywhere. We know it matters. We can no longer pretend that it's just something that kids do when they're bored. We know it matters. We have to invest in it. And if people don't want to believe the 12 million studies, I don't know really what else to do.
Well, and I think we run the risk of losing more and more younger people.
We're losing them all the time.
And so if we can't provide a future here for those individuals, just like you said, an engineer can live in any city.
Yes.
But look at the culture of a company. The people have now ranked the culture of a company more important than salary.
Yes.
And the culture of a company can only go so far. You can only do so many office Olympics before you have to head outside the doors. And you can only go on so many golf outings.
Yes.
And before you know it, you're going to need arts to help facilitate that other piece. My company, the Line Benders, we're celebrating our 17th year.
That is unbelievable. Bravo.
It is unbelievable.
Yep.
And we're thriving. And here's the beauty of it. I would say maybe a 60-40 split of shows that we do within 200 miles and then outside of 200 miles. Mm-hmm. But Fargo is our base because it's very reasonable cost-wise to be here. We can get to anywhere within a flight or two. Mm-hmm. And because of the internet, we can have our business pieces in front of it anywhere else. And then the business people in Fargo will talk to other businesses about, we had this group for our holiday entertainment, or we had this group come in and give a team workshop.
Yep.
And I think Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, heck, the surrounding area, they're right at that jumping off point. Mm-hmm. Our culture has changed so much. I remember when I was in high school, I only knew one black kid.
Yeah.
That was it. And now we've become a melting pot of cultures.
30% of graduating kids from Fargo South are minority kids.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. But what are we doing to make sure that they feel welcome, to make sure that their families are included in things, to make sure that they're not only coming to the arts, but that they're seeing their own art presented as well?
Right.
Because we're not doing that at all.
When you look at neighborhoods of New York City that celebrate the cultural heritage of the people who are living there, that's what we should be gearing up for in Fargo. Downtown Fargo should be celebrating, different holidays and different cultural awareness days. You look at the Viking festival going on this weekend.
Yep. Run
Scandinavian
by Tim
festival.
Jorgensen, previous podcast guest.
Yes, it's huge and it's big because there's people in this community who have that as part of their heritage. Well, we have people who have other heritage now,
right?
So let's
Which is
start
why
celebrating
Pangea
everything.
is so important. So important. I really, in my opinion, the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County, where the Yumcomst is, and the Red River Zoo are doing more to welcome diversity, to create a welcoming space for diverse people than anybody else in town. It's partly why we moved Chalkfest to the zoo, because they're already bringing in people whose last name doesn't end in son or sen. Mm-hmm. And that's really important, that everybody feel that they belong here, that they're wanted here, that they are seen here, and that they are celebrated here. So that's a big piece of what we want APT to continue to be, and the next iteration of it to do even more of and better, because I want to make sure that Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo prevents a African-American shooting by a police officer, doesn't react to an African-American shooting by a police officer. And that is not a slur on our police officers. I think we have fabulous police officers. But I want to make sure that the arts are playing a part of everybody feeling like they're welcome here.
And I think that you're doing a great job with that.
Thank you, sir.
And I keep doing what you're doing. And I know that you have long nights and even longer days most of the time. So if people don't say it enough, like I appreciate it as both a citizen and an artist in this
Thanks,
community.
JJ.
And sometimes the unsung heroes, the unsung warriors are the ones who there. But you just recently took home a pretty prestigious and amazing award.
I got a nice statewide award for being an emerging leader in the nonprofit sector, and it meant a lot to me because Nadano's doing great work across the state. And there's lots and lots of good nonprofits in our state. So it was lovely to be selected for that, and nice affirmation.
Okay, so if someone has a building somewhere, or if someone has listened to this podcast and they go, I've got an extra $45,000 I'm not doing anything with right now that maybe I want to spread, how are they going to get a hold of you?
DAYNA at theartspartnership.net, or call us at 237-6133. I'll talk to you if you got $45 you want to give. We're not desperate, but I'm interested in any kind of relationship people want to have with the arts. There isn't a starting point that is beneath my interest.
And businesses too.
Absolutely.
If you're wondering how your business can become more arts focused,
there's so many ways you can do it. We have a program called Artworks, which gets art into businesses and often artists into businesses, engaging with your employees and doing really interesting hands-on art as it applies to business kinds of activities and workshops, and kind of the sky's the limit. There's nothing I'll say no to, really. I mean, not from the start. Eventually I might have to, but we start from the premise that almost anything is possible.
And here's something for you wealthy folks out there. There is nothing that says you're higher class or you're maybe a little bit ahead of your neighbors than having them in for a cocktail party at your house and having someone comment on a piece of art on your wall and say, oh, it's a local artist that I know. And they did this one specifically for me. This is a one of a
A
kind.
little commissioned piece goes a long way in that competitive world.
I chose my attorney based on the art in his office because he was like, this is a local piece and this is a local piece and this guy. And I said, this guy.
You're my guy.
This is the one right here. Okay, start billing me.
But we got to mention Maz real quick before we
let's wrap up on
and
Maz.
also I'll just say that Maz is definitely on my short list for another guest because he would be an amazing guest.
He would be outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
I think once you meet him, JJ, if you haven't met him before.
I've met him.
You haven't met him
couple
before?
times,
Okay, so then I guess the podcast listeners, there's actually like 40 of them, which is pretty
that's
nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over 1,000 downloads.
Yep.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yeah.
We ran a podcast in our office for a while that I think got about 6 downloads. So
there you
well
go.
done.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep doing this until someone tells us to
JJ,
stop.
you're kind of a BFD, so it's not surprising.
That's right. Is it a big friendly giant? No, that's no, that's
no,
a G.
don't you remember when,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Joe Biden? Because we love Joe Biden.
Maz is he was raised in England, but he's Irish, right?
Raised in England.
So that's part of the reason why I love this man because he's Irish.
Got a great weird accent.
He's got an amazing accent, but he's just a funny, smart dude. And
He's a world expert plant cell wall biochemist.
yeah,
I'm not making that up.
That's a long business card.
He's a very specific thing. He's a world expert in how the potato breaks down.
Ooh.
and he's the only person I know who calls his wife his bird.
Yep. Which is very common in England.
It is. Okay.
Yep.
So anyways, we're going to get Maz on here at some point and we'll talk to him too. But shout out to Maz, my man.
Hi, Mazzy.
Maz. I
We'll
love you.
We'll get your son Quinn on too, and we'll kind of get this little
Kind of a
hat
Del Val
trick.
Mary trifecta.
I think that'd be awesome. We can talk to him about music, and
Music,
just about
math.
generally being awesome.
He's in New York City for the summer, so he can talk about that. He's having lots of interesting experiences
Boy,
there.
oh boy!
I know. He's
All
a high
right,
roller.
let's get this thing gone so that people can listen to it. We've been talking with Arts Partnership President and CEO, as well as generally awesome human being, Dayna Del Val. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a super fun Facebook message to get invited to, so thanks.
And thanks for hosting us at App for our little studio.
I'm so happy you're here.
Well, thank you.
JJ Meets World.
Well, that does it for this episode of JJ Meets World. If you'd like to find us online, you're going to head over to jjmeetsworld.com, which is also how you connect with our Patreon account. Help us keep the lights on by donating. Just give a little something our way. You know you can spare it. And if you also would like to subscribe to JJ Meets World or catch up on old episodes, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you consume the podcast that you love. give us a shout out, maybe tag us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, any of those things, and give us a rating, especially if it's going to be a good rating, because a little good rating goes a long way. Gang, we're over 25 episodes deep on JJ Meets World, and the way you can help us grow all the way up to the big 5-0 is to share this on social media. Tell your friends about it. Heck, you could even send out an email with a link if you wanted to. The more people that listen to JJ Meets World, the bigger the guests are going to be, and of course, the more that Tucker and I are able to record and give you 2 great episodes every single week. Speaking of Tucker Lucas, he's my producer on JJ Meets World. He takes care of me, books all the guests, and does all the technical work. If you'd like to find out more about what Tucker's doing, you can go to www.moonbasemaria.com. If you'd like to see more about what I am doing, you can go to linebenders.com. Maybe you want to book my comedy troupe for your holiday gathering or just ask me a question. Find all that information at linebenders.com. And that does it for this week's episode. So we'll see you guys later. Do you think that McDonald's ever gets sick of putting Mick stuff in front of it? Like, they got McCafe, McDonald's, McDouble. Do you think that they're ever like, you guys, come on, let's just give up on this for a little bit? They're like, no, it's a McNapkin. All right, make sure to McMop the floor later, okay?